Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining me on the From Nowhere to Somewhere podcast. My name is Luke Staton. The reason behind this creation is to share words of wisdom, hope, and optimism through conversation that can show us just what's possible in life. I've been truly inspired by the words I've not only listened to, but deeply heard from the people I've shared conversations with. You will hear how everyday people overcome trials and tribulations, and when faced with adversity, find a way to use it to their advantage. A common theme throughout, from all the different guests on the series, that wherever they are from and from whatever background, is they all have a desire for more from life. They all want to live a life of fulfillment. I hope you enjoy listening as much as I do creating. Thank you for joining me. What a truly inspirational conversation I've just been really privileged to have with my brother, Ronnie Staton. What a phenomenal human being. To overcome nearly dying of a stroke 5 years ago, to just complete the magnitude of a race called the Spine, which is a 268-mile race, which he finished in 117 hours and 26 minutes. For me, this isn't a conversation just about a race. This is a conversation about everyday life, the trials and tribulations of which we face, and how we must always find a way to keep moving in the right direction. I hope you can relate your life to the story of which you're just about to listen to, of how a man started in one place and wanted to get to the next. And no matter what, he was going to find a way. Even when in the first 20 miles his race was nearly over, even when he felt the tingles in his left arm once again come and his left leg start to drag, even though he was having conversation with himself of, should I continue feeling how I do? He found a way to keep moving. I really hope you enjoyed a story of life throughout the story of the Spine with myself, Luke Staton, and my wonderfully inspiring brother, Ronnie Staton too. From me to you, thank you for joining me. What date did you do it?
Spine, it was started on the 14th of January.
Okay, and you did it in 117 hours, 26 minutes.
Yeah, 117 and a half, I'd say, but yeah.
Oh, you're the one that really wants to be specific.
You can round up. You can't ever round down.
Oh, wow.
So you can see
some rules.
17 and a half for 30.
Sounds better though when you specific. How many seconds?
You couldn't just 40, I think. you could, no, 10, no 30. 40, no, it was 40. But you couldn't ever just say 117 hours.
People be furious.
Minutes off there.
Yeah.
So when I do that, when it's like, say if it was 117 hours, 40 minutes, I would say 118 hours, so I can remember it easily. Instead of trying to remember the minute, but don't you dare say 117 hours.
Is that a big thing in running?
You'll upset people, yeah. Just round up. I just round up. Like, swallow your ego, round up. You remember it. Nobody gets offended. And it could even swing in your favour. Oh, he's modest. He's done himself out of 20, 30 minutes there.
Yeah.
But don't ever round down.
So 117 hours, 26 minutes. And you're okay to round up to 117 hours and a half, but you're not allowed to go down to 20 because that is just against the law of running.
Yeah, you wouldn't go to 20. And you wouldn't round to, it's a mistake people make when that first number, 117 hours something.
Right.
You remember the 117 hours and then Chinese whispers or retelling the story, it ends up, yeah, I did it in 117 hours. You didn't. It was 117 hours, 26 minutes, 40 seconds, mate. And someone will have you.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Well, it's right, though, isn't it? 26 minutes is not an insignificant amount of time. So,
over 268 miles.
I'd say, because I can't remember things, I'd go, I did it just under 118 hours. Everybody's happy with that.
Yeah,
can't,
because when they check your time, they realise you've done yourself
out. He really did. Yeah, he really did. Yeah. It's like, I made the mistake with this with Long Last because I did 77 hours something, I believe, and I started telling the story wrong and saying I did about 77 hours, but I was closer to 78. So now all I say is did it roughly in 78 hours, and I was actually slightly under that. It's easily done, but people are out there watching. And you gotta
I remember that.
Don't give him fuel.
I remember that.
Look at him, like knocking all his times down, you know. Especially as a race across Scotland took me 72 hours, 20 minutes. So I'd have liked to have crept in under 3 days. The reality is I was 20 minutes over 3 days.
Yeah.
Got to mention the 20 minutes. Can't say 72 hours. Flying.
Interesting.
Well, it's
interesting though, the person that actually finds that out and then wants to bring it up.
These people live among us, mate. They got nothing else to do. And
We all know
they
those
tend
people.
to be in the running community. We'll say no more about them.
Yeah. So tell us, what is the spine then? What is the spine? Because today's conversation, I wanted to be guided all around what you've just done in January in 2024, which is just an epic adventure, an incredible, phenomenal race. I'd love to hear more about this specific race, because we've done conversation before, you and I, that's delved into the man behind who I'm looking into today. And I think if we could focus on that race and pull out as much content as we can about that, it'll go to other areas too. So for those that are listening that knows what the spine is, they'll be full of admiration that you just completed it. For those that have never heard of the spine and listening to this just out of interest of a great conversation, let's give them the opportunity to understand what it is and the magnitude of what you've just done.
I'll do my very best, but it is quite a difficult thing to portray in words, actually. But it's 268 miles. It's the Pennine Way National Trail, which is our oldest national trail in England. So it's seen as the one that, you know, a long distance walker or somebody would want to do. It opened in 1965, starts in Edale, Derbyshire, and makes its way north, goes through the Peak District, the Yorkshire Dales, then heads up north towards Northumberland and finishes on the Scottish borders in Kirk Yetholm, just a village there. And the whole aim of this is to kiss a wall at the Border Hotel in Kirk Yetholm. Just absolutely bonkers. It's got 10,000 metres of ascent, which is 32,000 foot for people who use feet. So it's always doing something. It's always going up and down. It's got some real iconic places along the route. Many of that I'm sure I'll forget. But up Jacob's Ladder coming out of Edale, up onto Kinderscout, further along the line, there's Hadrian's Wall towards the end of, you know, many people visit. Cauldron Snout, waterfalls, high force and low force. Things that you wouldn't imagine actually in England that you see along that trail. High Cup Nick as you drop into Dufton, Crossfell that I'm sure we'll talk about, an exposed hill, gets a lot of high winds and brutal weather. So there's these places along the Pennine Way that make the Pennine Way what it is. And it's just how amazing to have a 268 mile trail that you can start and finish and be told, get access to, and move the way up there. And credit to all the people that initiated that, you know, back in the 60s to get that open and give the common man the opportunity to roam the land.
So it's quite an iconic race now, this, hasn't it? It's developed over, I think, the last decade or so, and it's become a place that people from all over the world want to come and challenge themselves to complete. What is the attraction, do you think? Because runners that are listening to this, or ultra runners, will get it. Everyday people like myself will start to get it when they hear the story. What was the attraction for you, and what do you think it is that brings all these people from all over the world to want to have a go?
I believe the spine race, so actually the race, began in 2012. Very small field and remained that way year after year, but slowly snowballing, gathering a little bit more interest within the ultra running world, and then further. And now it's, you know, it's reached its zenith in many ways for its peak. You know, it's selling out in a couple of minutes. And the thing about the spine, I believe, that captivates beyond ultra running is the challenge element of it, because it's in January, you know, 16 hours of darkness. You're out in remote, wild places, so the weather's always worse than it is in your towns. People understand that and grasp that, even if they don't go out in that weather. And it's just the sheer distance of those 268 miles. So I think it captivates people who are not ordinarily perhaps lured in by ultra running because they see this huge challenge that is placed upon the individual trying to make their way to the Scottish borders and think, like, why does that person do it? How does that person do it? And I think it's part of what makes us human to want to will somebody on as well and get involved in that. So for my place looking in on it was, I'm really drawn to single stage. So that means the clock doesn't stop. Ultras, where it's a long way and the clock starts and it doesn't stop till you finish. So it's not on a multi-day where you do a fairly long distance and it stops and you sleep and then you go again with everybody the next day. It just keeps going. So It's down to you how you manage yourself. And I've always loved that. And that's the thing I love the most still now. And so the spine is that. You've got the full week.
It is a week. You get a week.
You get 168 hours, bang on a week to complete the distance, and the clock never stops. And it's up to you how you manage yourself, how you sleep, how long you rest. You've got a curfew of 8 hours in any checkpoint, but that's pretty generous. So you can take your time. But yeah,
what does that mean, a curfew?
Well, you can't stay in a checkpoint more than 8 hours.
Okay.
So they limit it in that way. So for me, it drew me in because it's what I love to do. 2016, I crewed Ryan Wood. We've discussed that before, and I kind of fell in love with the whole concept even more. And he managed it with just 3 hours to spare. So that was a great week. I followed him up right the way up the Pennine Way, back when he was allowed crew, in my car, sleeping in my car, and got to see his adventure from a crew perspective. And I was always wanting to go to the spine. Then a few health setbacks and whatever meant it took me 8 years from crewing Ryan to actually get there. And Ryan was there in Edale at the start to see me off, which was a really nice moment. And yeah, so just drawn to the event, but also, in kind of not a depressive, but in a poignant way, I've always wanted to go there and see what I could do at the spine then. But then post-stroke, it was a little bit more of a question of, like, can you do it now? And how will you manage yourself doing that? So I'd rather not have to ask that question. And it's really hard for me because I annoy myself bringing the stroke into these things. But the spine in particular, and I guess with all my running really, it was foolish of me or impossible for me to actually separate the stroke and my running now. So it was a bigger question for me is, can I do it now I've had the stroke as well?
So an extra challenge in the mix is not only 268 miles across the Pennines. And I think when I was watching the race, it was sometimes minus 10, 15 degrees, wasn't it? So It's like very, very cold. Is also that you had a massive stroke 5 years ago and a stroke as well. Earlier, what was it, January 2023, you had a mini stroke, didn't you? And then you've gone on and done this in January 2024. So it's interesting what you said there about you don't like to bring the stroke into the conversations with challenges like this. For what reason?
I don't want to play on it. I'm conscious, I'm self-aware not to play on it. I don't want to create a hero story or anything like that. I just want to tell the truth. I don't want to make something out to be harder than it was, but I also want to be honest with how difficult it was. And I don't want to play a stroke card. Like, that's something that's happened to me. I would never have chosen it to have happened to me or to anybody. And then I've had to deal with it. I have to bring it in to the conversation more often than I would like to, because it is a real thing there. But I certainly don't want to play on it or make it out to be harder than it was just because of a stroke. Sometimes there might be areas the stroke I don't actually feel bothers me or plays into something, but then sometimes it definitely does. So I'd only bring it up if I felt it did, but it certainly affected my planning, and it certainly affected. Here's the thing, like, so on the start line, and it is 5 years since that massive stroke, and I've seen so many pictures of the start of the spine each year and the people there, and I've been so busy getting ready for the spine. It was literally about 60 seconds before we started in Edale, and I looked up and I saw the spine banner and I saw the people around, And I thought, I'm in the picture. I'm in the picture.
Yeah.
And I remembered really quickly being on that hospital bed 5 years earlier, feeling like I could be in this picture, but with having absolutely no tangible or rationale evidence for how. And my gut was saying I can come back from this stroke, even though I felt like I'd been absolutely, beaten by a baseball bat around my head, and all my left side was numb and not functioning correctly. But there was something in my belly telling me, you can do this. But my mind was a bit like everybody else's, thinking, your ultra running's over. I mean, look at you. And there was that moment in those 60 seconds where I thought about that hospital bed and that feeling I had, and it something clicked, and I was like, you're here.
Yeah.
and it was just such an empowering feeling of, come on, like get to the finish. Because whenever I start something, I'm not going to say, oh, I had to go. I'm going, and I totally expect myself to finish. And thinking of the guy who's in the hospital bed 5 years earlier, I just feel like so grateful and so thankful for my recovery that I'm going to give it absolutely everything, is my way of saying thank you to that. And
amazing.
And so yeah, it's a part of me. But the other thing it is before, and some of it may have been youth, but I didn't doubt myself. I didn't doubt that I could do what I set out to do, other than the natural doubts that any person would actually have. But I believed that I could do it. And now I do have doubt. I have more doubt. I hear more doubt in my mind. And it's based upon very sensible and rational reasoning. And I have to deal with that, because that doubt will stop me getting to finish lines. And I didn't even used to have to contend with it before. I could just quash it, turn it off. It wasn't really there. There was more of a steely confidence. Now, the confidence is still there, but I have to, tussle and fight with more doubt because of the stroke, because of very real factors that I do actually have to deal with. And I'd be foolish to totally ignore them, but at the same time, I can't let them become excuses. And referring back to why I don't like to play on the stroke is because I've got the greatest excuse for stopping. And it'd stop me every single time if I just want to play the stroke card. And nobody can really criticize me, but I'm not that type of person, and I'm not letting that come into my narrative. But the doubt is more difficult now. I wouldn't ask myself, can I finish the spine? I'd say, well, I know you can finish the spine. But then with all that I've been through, there's this little nagging question that I have got that question. Can you now? And that's a different narrative altogether right away.
What do you do to nullify that doubt then? Or do you put strategies in place? Because obviously the doubt sounds like the doubt's coming from my health. Can I go with the sleep deprivation ahead of me? Will I be able to wake up and function how I need to? All of that doubt there. What do you do to give yourself the best opportunity mentally to go into it knowing that you can do it, because you've done all that you can to nullify the doubt rather than ignoring the doubt? So you've prepared for the doubt, really, haven't you? It sounds like
you prepare for it, because this is the whole thing about, you want to talk about positive affirmations or being a lion in the mirror, whatever you want to do, but it's all false. It's all going to be peripheral. I can look at myself in the mirror and talk myself up every day, but it won't work unless there's actual things behind it that I believe in. You can't kid yourself. So I have to go through what's bothering me, what's worrying me, how can I mitigate that problem? And if I start to feel like I can, I start to get confident. I can't fake that confidence. So by the time I'm on the start line, have I gone through things in my mind that's made me feel like I've got a good chance? I expect to finish, but I also feel confident I've got a good chance, and it's certainly not a given that I will. And so I nullify the doubt by being with the doubt. See, people try and turn doubt off, run away from it, block it out, like I said, with positive affirmations, and they say all this great stuff about yourself. It doesn't work, because the doubt is a real thing, and it's actually there to help you. It's there to stop you making an error, stop you being complacent. swallow your ego and look at why have I got that doubt. And so the very real things there, and some of it you can't do anything about. And in the circumstances that you can't do anything about, the things that are creating the doubt, you learn to accept.
Yeah.
And you learn that they are there, but do they actually really stop me? Or will they make this more difficult? And if they just make it more difficult, then I need to have more desire, or I need to have more of a reason to get to the end, and perhaps someone else might if they don't have these problems. But do they stop me? And if I'm lucky, like quite often I think, no, they'll just make it harder. If they just make it harder, I'm game on. Because for someone else might think, yeah, that really would stop me. So, I'm fortunate to be in that position with how well I recovered, and I'm always grateful for that. So yeah, nullify your doubt by working with it, sitting with it, working through that, and how do I improve my situation? You're trying to put the odds in your favour, and you do every damn thing you can to put them in your favour, because it's going to be hard enough. And ignoring the doubt, I think, would be foolish, because it's real. It's there for a reason. There's a chink in your armour that you've got to try and work with. And like I said, if you can't change it, you accept it. And I can't tell you why that gives you more strength, but it does. As soon as you accept you've got a problem, and you accept that there might not be anything you can do about it, just being aware of it gives you some kind of strength.
Well, I think it's really empowering to accept that the doubt's there, and then do what you can to overcome that doubt, with planning for if that doubt does arise at a time when you're not fully focused and know what you're doing. Because you think about that as somebody that goes out for a 10-mile run. If every time it gets to mile 9 and the body hurts, they keep stopping at mile 9. They get used to stopping at 9. If they realize they shut down at 9 for whatever reason, a calf strain or whatever it is, if they put something in place to stretch out the calf regular so they get to mile 10, they're listening to the doubt, but now they've done something to overcome that doubt. And listening to you talking, I can relate that to everyday life, that people have lots of concerns in life, lots of doubt about relationships, friendships, money, jobs, and ignore it because it's uncomfortable. And we ignore it by watching a TV series or something, or drinking, or whatever we do. Actually owning the doubt and going, where's that coming from? What is it? Why have I got it? What can I do to relieve the intensity of that doubt? And I think that's really empowering when you own it and accept it, and sometimes be vulnerable and talk about it, and then fathom your way out of how to overcome it. So what was one specific thing that you doubted with the stroke, for example, that you would be able to complete that race, that then you prepared for that moment?
Well, I pretty much live like a retired old man. I am lucky enough to work from home with my coaching and race directing, and I've worked hard to set up my life to how I want to live. And I'd say, to my children or anyone else listening, try and find a way to do that. I'm not going to feel guilty about that. I've had luck, and I'm grateful for it, but I worked hard to shape my life in the way that I wanted to live.
Yeah.
That's enabled me now and again, if I need it, to take a nap, right? Which has proved vital in my recovery. And I feel for people who can't do that and get launched back into full-on work in a workplace. Now, when I get really tired and there might not even be any problem, I have to shut down. Like, I have to sleep. I can't think. I just got a brain fog. I just like an old man, I'll just fall asleep. So doing something like the spine and also I could have taken my time. I could have taken the full 7 days and slept a lot longer, but I had no real interest in doing that. I want to see, can I push? Can I kind of do my best, basically, is also in my mind of what I want to do. No, I don't just want to finish. I want to do my best and finish.
Yeah.
So the sleep deprivation was a thing where when I get that out on the trail, what on earth am I going to do? And especially if it is really cold, which we did get really cold, so you can't just catnap on the trail. And the way I mitigated it was just not to push my luck too much in the checkpoints. I think I pushed it as far as I could. But before, I could have maybe managed on even less sleep. So I had to designate a little bit more time to sleep to try and prevent me passing out on the trail or finding myself in a hole, which that happened, and it happened on 2 distinct occasions, but it would have happened a lot more. So that's one of
What
them.
happened?
Of just being out on the trail, falling asleep.
What, as you move in?
As you move in, it's just a very common theme on the spine. And it's just it's hilarious how similar people's blogs are, even to the point of where we've fallen asleep and of where we're trying to get to. It's just fascinating that we're all just very similar in our makeup of you're getting very tired at similar parts of the race, and therefore you're trying to get to the next milestone, and we're all falling asleep. And so when that happens, you're scanning the trail. Is there any cover? Is there anywhere I can just lay down for 10 minutes, pass out, and then it'll get me to the next point?
Is this snow underfoot?
Snow, yeah. It was snow most of the way. Snow and ice and
Freezing.
through night, like minus 10 probably, you could say, average through the night. So you're like, but if you could find some trees or you find a bit of cover, it's possible for 10 minutes. You'll wake up cold, get going again. But it's just both occasions that happened to me. One on the second night, I believe it was, and then one on the fourth night.
Yeah.
It was just nowhere. So then I'm thinking, well, I could get my bivvy out, I could get my sleeping bag out, because I'm that desperate, I can't stay awake. But the kit you've got, really, for a bivvy, I think it'd have to be a bit warmer to get a sufficient rest. So I was thinking, it's not really going to be a great rest, and I might get even colder. And I'm putting my race at jeopardy. I might not get going again. And obviously, if you got it really wrong, you're putting your life at risk. But you'd have to make some big errors, I think, to die out there, because you've got the mountain rescue that hopefully would come and scrape you up in your bivvy. But there's this thing of adventure that it's this game, and that you could stop and you could bivvy in and you could press your distress and you could be out. But it feels the same with dying. It feels like finishing in the game of it. It feels the same. You're like, there's no option for me to press that button and to be out. Obviously, you'd make a sensible decision in the end if you had to and pull from the race. But that's the joy of adventure, or the challenge of wanting to finish these things. You don't see another way out. Like you've got to get there. So that's the sleep deprivation. I felt like I coped really well. I was really grateful. In fact, I've never been so thankful to my body for coping so well on an ultra, actually, or on a expedition, if you want to call it, an adventure like this, because I thought I'd get hit far harder than I actually did with the sleep deprivation, and I managed to get through okay. And also those points where I was really fighting, there was one night for trying to get to Hornistead Farm, for instance. It was at least -10, snow everywhere, and I miscalculated and thought the barn was 6 miles away, and then it demoralised me because I knew I couldn't stay awake for 6 miles. I checked the map again and it was 3, and my body came alive, and I thought, I'm right on my limits here. This is exactly what I signed up to. I was giggling inside. I was too tired to laugh out loud, but the sense of adventure I had was like, this is it. Like this is what you came for. You know,
it was really testing you.
Really testing me. Like I'm barely awake. I've got to get to that barn, and if I don't, I feel like my race is over. Because if I don't pull out the race, really, I'm not so sure I'll get a rest to carry on, and then I'm putting my life at risk. So it felt like you've got to keep going. And that was like really brought the sense of adventure out of you. It's very rare you're right on your limits like that. Get there or you're out. And
so you thought it was 6 miles and it was 3 miles.
Yeah.
By this time it's night 4, so you've been going for what, over 80, 90 hours?
Yeah, it was probably around mile 200 something plus there.
Yeah,
really tired. Very, very, very little sleep.
How much had you slept, Ren, from mile 1 to mile 200 where you're searching for this barn?
Oh, at that point, probably a designated 7 hours
Is that
to
all?
sleep. Yeah, like the whole thing I designated, worked it out, roughly 10 hours for the whole thing. That wasn't sleep, that was designated to sleep.
So not only are you moving in freezing cold conditions, you're limiting yourself to basically 2+ hours a day sleep.
Yeah, but the thing is that I did take a bit more than I would have before my stroke. I've had some bad sleep deprivation, like hallucinations, quite dark, and I do try and avoid them now. And that was the other thing I was so blessed with. I didn't have dark hallucinations. I saw things that weren't there, but they was quite nice. Like, I quite enjoyed it.
What did you say?
I just see things on the floor. I just see American presidents and Elvis Presley. I don't know why it seems to be more American based, but I look at the floor and I just see really iconic faces, Al Pacino, people like this.
And you know they're not there, but you think they are.
I know they're not there.
Yeah.
I know that. The thing is, as well, what I've learned to do is when I'm approaching a light in the distance, I'll see all kinds of things if I look at it. And so if I'm okay with that, and I feel like I want to trip out, I'll look at it and I just enjoy the ride, so to speak. But if it's getting me down a bit and I'm fed up of seeing things that aren't there, I don't look at the light. And if I don't look at the light, I don't hallucinate hardly anywhere near as much as I would. And that's what I found is that I don't know if somebody's looking for a tip to avoid hallucinations, but I found don't look at the light. When you look at the light, your brain's trying to think, what am I seeing up ahead? And you see all kinds of weird things. Just look at the floor.
Yeah.
I just see faces. And, but I weren't talking to anybody who wasn't there as far as I'm aware. And I wasn't, in lengthy conversations with people that wasn't there this time. So that was great as well. Really, really thankful how I coped with that. I thought I was going to be in for some real dark times like that. And I really wasn't. So on that level, made it a real positive experience.
And really, you'll have been awake for longer but how much earlier do you need to be up for the race start? How long are you awake before?
You're up a few hours, yeah.
So you got a few hours before it starts.
Yeah.
And then you've got the 4+ days it took you to 117 hours, and you're only having 8 hours sleep in that period. It's like quite uncomprehendable to us everyday people to imagine working and only having 2 hours sleep and going back to the work the next day and doing your thing for 4 days consecutive and only having 2 hours a day and being able to function.
Well, it's just not comparable to normal life. I couldn't do it. It's about the movement. It's about what you're trying to achieve, and you enter in some kind of bubble and the focus that's there, and you throw all normality out the window. That has gone the minute you start. But I think just the dealing with those kind of things, obviously part and parcel of what you're trying to do. And I think that's what captivates people looking in on it as well, of how on earth do you do that. But I think where it hit me harder was my mood. I really struggled to get a hold of my mood because in daily life, if I'm really tired or I'm hungry or, my brain damage deficit comes out, and my mood's one thing that I will struggle with now and bothers me now, still affects my life now. And I feel my mood go and I get irritable, frustrated, and I get down. And I was really grappling with that for the first couple of days.
Yeah.
And also I ended up in real... I don't want to call it severe. It might be dramatizing, but real uncomfortable stomach. My stomach really hurt, and it was overwhelming. It's all I could think about. And I was reading about that, and that's to do with, it felt sleep deprivation related in the moment. So I didn't think it was food or fueling a lot and all this. It felt to do with lack of sleep, and what it is really. Lots of magical things happen when you sleep, and that's why we sleep. And part of that is the digestive process. So you can't digest properly because you're just not sleeping. And that leads to gut inflammation, and that gut inflammation hurts. And I've never experienced it before. And for the last day in particular, maybe last 2 days, it was really hard to cope with because I didn't know what it was either. And it comes back to this acceptance. Now I know that you get that, I'd be better at dealing with it because I could tolerate it better because I know what it is.
Yeah.
But it felt in my heart. You know, I've got a hole in my heart, for instance, that may or may not have caused my stroke. So that's there. I had an operation that failed to close that hole. I'm out there on the hill. And I don't know many people that when I talk to people, most of us have a philosophy in life, right? A philosophy is easy to create. You just say it, you write it down, and you can, this is what I think about life. But the thing is, I get really tested in those moments when before you have a massive stroke, you can fob it off and you say, "Don't be silly, you're not going to die. You know, it's just this or that." Now, I can't just do that. And across the Cheviots to the last stretch, I didn't tell Vicky, but my left arm was entirely numb, and I put it down to my rucksack. I didn't believe it was a stroke symptom, but there's the thing though, is it? And you got this doubt in your mind, and then I've got this thing in my stomach and my heart, and I feel dreadful, and I'm thinking, man, are you going to die here? And I wouldn't have to contend with those thoughts. Could you just say, mate, you've been running for nearly 5 days, you're bound to feel dreadful, suck it up, get on with it. And it's really hard for me to find that narrative now because I'd almost be a fool to. So I'm assessing myself. Am I having a stroke? You know, every day at 10 o'clock, I had to remember to take my blood thinner. These bonkers things that, and then right in that moment where you're thinking, I feel so ill now. I feel so bad. This is not right. And you're thinking, have I made the right decision here? Is my philosophy right to carry on and be an ultra runner? And I'm a father. I've got young children. And am I right in this? And that I have not got the answers to. It doesn't stop me, but it's hard to swallow because in that moment, you're not as confident as you are in a room like this, and you start to have doubts whether you've done the right thing if you are to drop down dead there, and your kids find out, oh yeah, see the thing is, there's no guarantees you'll live a long life not doing this stupid stuff, but I knew the spine would take me to limits where anyone in their rational mind would say that is not good for you. It's not good for anybody. But you, mate, you know, you've had a bad stroke. You didn't fix your hole. You're on blood thinners, and you're doing this to yourself. So some people find it inspiring. Some people say I'm an idiot, and I think both would be correct. Well, to get your philosophy tested like that, I've come out of it, and I'm sticking with my philosophy. But in those moments, these are things that I'm dealing with that I would have never have a few years ago imagined that I'd have to rationalise. And I still don't know if I'm right, but I can only go with that I feel like I am. I could never know, so I carry on.
Well, the thing is that people don't know what it feels like to have nearly have died in general. You do. So when you're feeling your chest, your stomach, your left arm becoming numb and sleep deprived, of course you're going to start to think, am I having another stroke? Because you've had one massive one and a smaller one. You're going to be thinking that. And it's really interesting how you differentiate between yes, I am or no, I'm not. Because when you had the stroke, you didn't know you was having one. So you're moving. You know you're not fully capable of having no serious conversation with yourself, yet you still choose to keep moving. And something's clearly telling you that you're okay, keep going. You're on the edge, really, aren't you? And how often do you hear people when they push really hard say, I felt like I was going to die?
Yeah.
It's just a flippant comment.
It is.
But you're actually having that question, I know what it's like to nearly of, am I going to again? And am I going to survive this time?
I don't mind for me. Like I've made peace with death. I don't mind. That's the only way I could carry on. I'm ready. Like, you know, if it's today, it's today. I'm cool with it. But it's not just me.
Yeah.
And in those moments, that's when my life philosophy gets pushed to the absolute end, and I think, should I stop? I should stop at the next point for my family. But for me, I can't. I don't stop, because I do believe I'm making the right choice. That for me to find any. I'm not trying to be happy. I think I'm beyond happy, but I'm trying to find some peace. I'm trying to find some joy in my life. I'm not really the right characteristics to be happy. I've never been a happy person of a happy demeanor, but I'm trying to find some peace.
Depends how you describe happy.
Yeah. I'm not bouncing around with chuckling all the time. It's not me. But the only way I can find any peace in my life is to carry on. And if I don't do that, I think I turn into something that nobody wants to be around anyway. So I cut it as I've got no real choice. But
yeah,
we've moved on from the spine anyway, and this is the bloody problem of it all the time, because this is why I prefer not to play the stroke in, because you go on a digression.
Yeah, but it's an important part of the race, because
it was. Yeah.
There's how many do the race?
Well,
how many people?
Roughly 150.
So it's 150 human beings putting themselves on the line to accomplish something.
And they've all got something.
Exactly.
They've all got something.
Whether that's marital issues, children that have got conditions, or financial pressures, busy lives. Everybody's got something to contend with.
And you know what? They do talk about what I can imagine talked about when they're out there. They start feeling a bit guilty, or should I be here? And for me, some of them reasons I would disagree with as me as a person, but each to their own, and they end up stopping because of them reasons. I need to get back to my family. I don't suffer with that. I suffer with I need to stay alive for my family. But everybody's got their own thing, and that's the other thing. I don't want to try and use my stroke to try and one-upmanship on anybody.
Well, it's just a fact of it.
It's just something that happened to me. I didn't choose it. I didn't earn it. I didn't achieve it. It just bloody happened to me. And I would never want to be seen as somebody. He just keeps harping on about it because he knows he gets one up on people because they can't come back at it. And to be fair, there are people that have had a lot worse than me as well, and outdo me for their tales and stories. But it's of course not about that. But we're talking about the spine, and this race was more than a lot of the other stuff that I'd done. I had to consider it more, and I think that's why it's coming out in this conversation, because as much as I would, perhaps prefer to block it out, I can't. So I have to bring it into the conversation, and then I have to mitigate it the best I can.
You think about those people, though, that enter that race with all these ideas or these self-doubts, whatever's in their mind, and they're entering something that they're willing to really put themselves to the real test of never done anything like it, or if it's the first time. And I admire that so much, that they're accepting I might not be able to do this, but I don't know, but I'm willing to go after it. And what I can only kind of presume that once they've accomplished something of that magnitude, physically and mentally, that other things in life may become a little bit easier to think about overcoming. Because if you can find a way to get from A to B at a speed that you need to, with all the conditions, I'm quite confident that you can go home and work out how you're going to cut back on some financial spending, or how you're going to find a new career path, because you've done something that's so extreme. Other things must then become not easier, but you can focus them with the same strategy. That if I can do that, I can do anything. So it must bring a confidence within the human spirit that if I can do something of that level, there's nothing going to get in my way. Whether people use that as not, I don't know, as gravitas moving into other chapters of life. But, I can only go off my experiences. When you've achieved one thing, you get confidence that you can do the next thing. And if the next thing doesn't work, it's okay, because something else worked for you. And the more things work, the more stacking that confidence and self-belief that you get, the more things you go after with the belief you can do it. And I want to go to the race. And you've mentioned a couple of things there. You said that when you left, arms started to feel a bit numb. You didn't mention it to Vicky. Now, who is Vicky?
Yeah, so Vicky, again, it's impossible for me to separate my spine story without mentioning Vicky as well. So we brushed shoulders really early in the race as we've recollected it and got our heads together. As early as Horton, and on the way to Hawes, basically, which is 108 miles. I believe I caught her on the climb up Pennine Way. It was just a beautiful day, like blue skies. It's really cold but really clear. Just an amazing day. Penny Ghent. I've been up a few times, very rarely get a view. It's one of the Yorkshire Three Peaks. It's just incredible up there. Bitterly cold though. And I remember seeing her there, and then I was with her for a short spell. And then I was ranting at her in Hawes, because I mentioned my mood. It was 67 miles without a proper checkpoint, and I was really hungry, and I was really tired. I'd not slept night one at all, I was aware of it, but I felt incapable of getting my mood.
How long have you been moving approximately?
I don't know, I don't know if it'd be as much as coming up to nearly 2 days, maybe.
Yeah.
No, not 2 days, day and a half, maybe, on the second day. And but you've run all night, you're coming into the afternoon of the second day, not had any real sustenance, no good food, no sleep. And like I said, my brain damage will like anybody could be grouchy, and they are grouchy, but mine felt a little bit more severe, and I was a bit worried about it. I felt so negative, I felt so grumpy, so agitated, frustrated. I could have fallen out with my shadow, and I tried to, because no one else about.
Yeah.
So Vicky took a bit of a rant from me in Hawes.
So you caught her up and just started ranting?
I think I was slightly ahead of her, and as soon as she sat in front of me, I thought, you're having a rant. I've apologised to a few people after the race.
And what was the rant about?
I just really, really disgruntled about the lack of food,
Yeah.
which was my fault. The race was as advertised, but I was not having it. Someone had to have it, and obviously I didn't blame any individual, and I was never personally rude to anybody, but I spoke my thoughts. I was just so unhappy with having no food. Every shop I went past was shut and all this. I was like, just lost it really. And I left Hawes, and I felt a bit better about things, and I allowed myself 2 hours there. I should have gone an hour. I only set my alarm for an hour in Hawes, and that was a mistake. It should have been more like 2. So I got like 40 minutes sleep at Hawes, but for that second night it was nowhere near enough. But I'd never done this, so I didn't really know, and that didn't put me in the best position. But I definitely, as day broke for day 3, I picked up a little bit, and I'd had some food as well. So I saw her there, and then she caught me up, apparently wandering aimlessly in a field later that day. And I do remember, because of that hour, I was really tired. I could not quite work out where the trail was. It was all under snow, and I couldn't figure it out. And I was looking at my GPX, and I don't know. Anyway, she came up behind me with a couple of guys and said it's this way. So I kind of tagged with her there, and I was with her for a good few hours there, going to checkpoint 3 at Longdon Beck, which is about 155 miles, I believe. And just straight away, I'd like to think the feeling was mutual, but just she's written that she felt comfortable with me, but felt really comfortable in her presence straight away. So you could talk or not talk, and both felt fine, and there was no need for small talk, or you didn't have to watch what you say or anything, which is always good for me. And we just got on, and then we decided from 3 to go towards Alston together, because you go over Crossfell that I've mentioned, which is quite a scary hill, with good reason. It's very exposed, gets a lot of high winds. There'd been reported -18 wind chill, and been some blizzards of sleet. And so they actually paused the race at that position as well. We really kind of missed the worst of that sleet and weather. We never got it. And we got back out. So we did all that leg together. And we had the high of Crossfell. We hit Crossfell at sunrise. And there were a few other guys around us as well. And it's just incredible. Completely under snow. A huge cloud inversion in the valley, and not a breath of wind. It's just like, it was cold. It was like probably -15 or whatever, but not. I was never cold on the entire spine.
Yeah.
I had to move, but I was never. I can't big that up in any way. I was actually never ever cold on the spine, as long as you could move. But I did pace for that, and sometimes I did feel like, should I be giving it a little bit more here? But in the back of my mind is, if you can't move well, you get really cold. So your clothes don't provide warmth, your body does. Clothes trap it in.
Yeah.
So you're by your movement, you're your best heater. And if you get really slow, you get cold. So you pacing for that a little bit. Well, I certainly did, is like, don't spend all your energy now. If you can keep moving at a fairly good rate, even just, fast walking later, you'll stay warm and you'll get this done. So Crossfell was amazing. Experienced that with Vicky. Dropped into Greg's Hut, had some spicy noodles from John Bamber at Greg's Hut. That's just a bothy. These things just make the spine what it is. Just a great experience. We moved on there. We got to Alston. Now at Alston, so that's about 185 mile. We'd arranged then. I think by then we thought, right, we kind of get on. So let's carry on. And I was enjoying it. And I normally like to be by myself. And she kept giving me to get out. Just say if you don't. I said, no, I would tell you. Don't just don't ever have to be worried about that. I'll tell you if I want to be by myself.
Yeah.
And but I overslept in Alston. I just did not. We set for 2 hours sleep, I believe, and I didn't wake up. Very unlike me, but didn't wake. 90 minutes, sorry, we said we'd have, and I had 2 hours.
Did you set an alarm then, or did you
set an alarm?
Yeah.
I felt really guilty because I was in a bunk room with other guys, not in my bed I'd had, but in the room, and my alarm was going off and I just didn't hear it, so I'd have been like annoying them with it. Hopefully they had the plugs in and they didn't hear it either. But
are these like huts then with bunk beds in?
There was a youth hostel, that was.
Right.
Most of the checkpoints were youth hostels, so you've got a nice bed. And so when I got up, at least half an hour late, Vicky had gone. And it was dropping into darkness. I was like, oh no. So got this thing, like getting on with Vicky. We're having a good time. We're moving well. And she's gone. I've woken up late. I got to go out into the pitch black, freezing cold by myself again now. Normally, I'm totally like, wouldn't even think about it. But it's like, oh no. But I had a really good leg on that leg and I got moving well. And I probably had my best performance-wise stretch on that. It was just legs opened up and just really, really enjoying it. And I actually caught Vicky back up then in Hornisted Farm, which is about 5 miles from the last checkpoint, about 225 miles. She was asleep across this bed in a barn when I eventually fought my way there. I had a 20-minute nap in a chair. I mean, the people there, just incredible people. I don't even think I said hello. I just said, I need to sleep. And she said, sit in that chair. She was in that chair, she just pulled the warmest blankets over me and I just passed out.
Paradise.
Oh, yeah. I just had like 20 minutes in and out. And then I saw Vicky, I thought I saw her feet move. I thought she stood up and I pulled these blankets off me. And she went, are you there? I was like, yeah, I'm here. I was like, I'm coming with you. She went, are you sure? I'm like, yeah. I'd had enough again then. I'd enjoyed it. And I'd done quite a lot of the race alone anyway. I was ready to buddy up again.
Did you ever think that she shook you off because of your ranting and she wanted to be on her own when you woke up and she'd gone?
Yeah.
Or did you just think?
Yeah, absolutely. But she also thought I'd deliberately let her go.
Oh.
So I guess we could both.
She did great accepting your ranting though on first meeting.
Yeah, no, she's like a sponge with that.
Yeah.
I think that's why we got on. I think she found me somewhat entertaining in minutes. She just thought, he's this idiot.
Yeah.
But she just absorbed me without angering me or without, rebuffing me. That again would anger me. So she didn't stoke my fire, but she didn't tell me to shut up either. She just absorbed me.
Yeah.
And that's all I needed because I'd gone like all night without anyone to moan at. And so I just needed someone. So she was really good at that. And then, we made the final push together basically. Again, then from Bellingham to Burness and then Burness over to Cheviots for the final leg. So we probably fought maybe 50 hours together by the end of it. And but I was really struggling over the Cheviots and I ran out of money to buy a good watch. So I was navigating from a handheld, which is great, very reliable, but you have to get it out and hold it. And it can just slow you down a little bit. She had the route on her watch. So she was up ahead and she just led the way and I just had to try and keep on to her heels really. So I was really thankful for that, for having to do that. It was saving me a lot of energy really. It's not particularly difficult navigation, and we both had wrecked it in our training, so we kind of knew the way roughly. But for me, just to switch off and follow her feet, I was very grateful to be able to do that. Felt like I was cheating.
Is it marked out, or is it all you've got to find your own way?
It's not marked out. Pennine Way, you get the odd footpath sign, but
yeah,
good luck to you if you're following signs across the Cheviots. You're not going to get there.
What's the Cheviots?
They're remote hills, and they kind of blend Northumberland to the Scottish borders.
Right.
Beautiful set of hills, undervalued and underrated in my view. Not quite mountains, but big hills.
Yeah.
And you kind of stay on the tops and you roll up and down them. Just a beautiful place, but we did it all in darkness. Like that whole stretch was in the dark, and that's what I'd had about the spine. It's just dark so often, and it really had something. But Vicky was just calm, focused, determined, competitive, supportive, just a true leader in every essence of it, without even knowing it as well. So that made her good to be around. And when I was struggling, I drew strength from her and was inspired by her, again, without her having to even do anything. And for me, I think you can help people to lead better than they could. And some people are just innate, natural born leaders. And for me, Vicky was. And also what I would say about it was I was getting a lot of joy from seeing her achieve.
Yeah.
Neither of us had done it. And we both had our issues, and my stomach was really sore. But I was kind of seeing her do it and how strong she was, and I thought, it's just great to share something with somebody achieving so much as well, feeling inspired from that. And it's cliched, but I think the power of we to get to the finish was more than I'm going to finish. It was like, we're going to finish, and that kind of team aspect. You could talk all day about that kind of group dynamic of human beings, but really felt that. And that was special because it's not something that I've experienced on ultras before. And finding out about her back history, really, she pretty much jumped straight into Cape Wrath, which is a 200-odd mile multi-day from Fort William up to the tip of Scotland. I've coached people for that really build up to that. She went and did that and did well. She did Dragon's Back, which is across the mountains of Wales. Again, a multi-day, about 230 mile, I believe. Really, really difficult multi-day race that I've coached people for with a lot of experience that really respect it, build up. She just went and did it. And then she bounced off that last September into the spine. The spine has taken me forever to get to. People really scared of it. She's just gone and done it. And she's not only done that, she's finished in a what I would say is a really respectable time, finishing with me. And I can flip that either way, and I can say I need to pack in because I'm wasting my time. But I think she's just extraordinarily strong and good at what she does, and I hope she continues to pursue it and improve. And
big up to Vicky, eh?
Yeah, no, massively. It does hurt me a little bit to be so nice about her, but we have arranged to be on the Arc of Attrition in 2025, where we're going to race one another.
Oh, good.
And for me, with 13 years ultra experience in comparison to her, pretty much none, I really want to beat her. And if I don't beat her, I might just pack in. So
I think she's got your number mentally and physically by the sounds of it.
I'm rattled.
She's got you.
Yeah, I feel like I've got something to prove there. So there's no, if we're teaming up on the Arc in January, something's gone wrong, and I'll be upset about it. I want to be in front.
Weren't there a time in that race that you said that you felt that she was doubting your ability to keep going, and she showed signs of doubting you, and then you didn't like that, and you wanted to apologise?
It really upset me. Really,
what happened?
Coming into Burness, which must be like 240 miles, just before the last push over the hills there, and I was moaning about my stomach, and I tried to limit my moaning because it's not nice and nobody wants to hear it, but it's overwhelmingly painful. I'm like, my stomach, and I didn't know what it was. I do believe it was just gut inflammation now, which is quite embarrassing, but it really hurt. And I might have mentioned it once or twice, and we're coming into Burness, which is a monitoring point, and she thinks I'm setting the scene, building the stage to drop there. Right. People do drop there.
How far to go?
27 more miles, but it's a long shift. It's a hard job of it, and you're going out into remote hills. You got two mountain refuge huts across them hills that you utilise. We had a nap in both huts, which was really great just to refresh and then carry on. But you've got a slog ahead. You've done a long way, but you've got a lot to do yet still. And you could encroach a lot of problems. She thinks I'm setting a scene to drop because I'm moaning. But in my head, I'm never dropping.
What makes you think she thought you were setting a scene?
Oh,
What did
she
she
looked
say?
at me. It's like, she mentioned something, and I said, I was never going to drop you now. And she just looked at me. And I could tell, I was like, no, right. I said, I weren't, I wasn't going to drop. And I could tell that she thought, she's like, yeah, whatever, Ronnie. I'm like, right, I'm not having that. So we're leaving Burness. And I'm behind her, I'm barking at her. I'm going, take it back. Take it back. Like, no, you got, listen, I weren't going to drop because it really bothered me because we'd teamed up. And we've formed this bond, we've formed this friendship, and she thinks I was going to quit. And it just really upset me. And I was like, no, she took it, she didn't mean it. She took it back.
What did she actually say? I take it back,
Yeah,
Ronnie.
she didn't mean
just
it.
to shut you
But
up.
it helped me just to hear the word. I'll take it back then, yeah, as if I do. And it helped me in my mind. So it really upset me. Obviously she doesn't know me, and I don't quit like that. I never have done, but she doesn't know that. And I guess it did sound like I was up in the ante coming into Burness I can drop now.
Do you think that fired you up a bit though to keep pushing it?
Yeah, it annoyed me.
Yeah.
It annoyed me that she thought that, because I thought, God, have I moaned that much where my character looks that much in doubt that I was going to flake there? Because in my mind, I'm never stopping there. Like, but for someone that I'm with to think that, I thought, get a grip, man. It did fire me up, and I'll try and keep that under tabs in the future.
Weren't they a part of the race? Was it not early on when you got some shin pain from the very off of the race, and that was causing you a lot of discomfort?
It was dreadful. Yeah, about 20 miles in, and my shin was really painful, and I thought, there's no way I can do this now, because I went through a cycle. I thought, there's no way you can do this with this pain because it's too far. Then I went through, yes, you will do it. It's just going to be the most miserable, most painful experience of your life, and you've had a few, but this will top it. But then I went back to it of like, no, mate, like there's no matter how tough you are, you cannot tolerate this. It was just what it was.
Another 250
Yeah,
miles.
yeah, you just get real. Like, you're not that hard. It's not going to happen. So all it was a very simple thing. The shoes I was wearing, the La Sportiva Cyclone GTX, there's probably a few other words to their name, it makes them sound sexier, but they got a fixed-in gaiter on. A gaiter is like something you wear over your shoe normally, but they're fixed on the shoe. And it's Gore-Tex, it's waterproof, and it won't stop water getting in your shoe, but it'll limit it, so you hopefully get drier feet.
Yeah.
But it was creating pressure on the tongue, pressing into the top of my foot, and I was getting referred pain to my shin, which was bizarre. I couldn't feel the tongue on my foot. I could feel shin pain. And I had to walk a marathon distance, 26 miles, because it was too painful to run. That early on the spine, I'm walking when I've got all the energy in the world to run, but I'm in pain. I'm like, I can't. It hurt a bit to walk, which was the real worrying factor. I thought, just got to get to Hebden Hay, 46 miles to the medic, and hope the medic's got healing hands. This guy's got to be Jesus Christ. He's got to have something up his sleeve. That, and anyway, he did. He was pretty good. He looked at it. He said, "It's just your tongue on your trainer." He said, "Tape it." I did, and it didn't hurt.
But you taped it down, or
I taped my foot just to create a layer between my skin and the tongue.
So the tongue of your shoe was pushing onto your shin
into like the ligament.
Something is
to tendon.
Had you worn these before?
Yeah, no problem in training whatsoever. I had no
Wow.
change of shoes, so it was great news. It was just my footwear, not really my shin. But I had no change of shoes because I'd gone with them. I trusted them because I'd really tested them out. And getting this problem, and it seems to be a common problem with the shoe. It's a great shoe, but you get this now. I'm really nervous leaving checkpoint 1. I'm not sure if it's going to have done a little bit of tape. Like, come on, how much can I expect this to do? But it's all I've got, so I'm so hopeful. And I get out the checkpoint, and it didn't hurt. I could not believe it. The whole pain, which was debilitating for like the whole day before, was totally gone. And obviously, if I'd have known that now, I'd have stopped on the trail. I had tape on me. I'd have fixed it. But because I felt it in my shin, I thought I was injured. I jiggled the shoe around like instinctively, and nothing happened. And I didn't for a second think I was getting referred pain. I should have stopped in hindsight. I'd have taken the shoe and sock off. I'd have seen the bruise and thought, it is the shoe. I would have instinctively taped to create a barrier, and I maybe could have fixed that problem many, many miles earlier. But it did get fixed. The left one went about 100 more miles in, so then I taped that one. And they never gave me any other problem. Even that issue I had didn't really flare up on the whole race. It was a bit of a tape. Unbelievable, but I was like the happiest man ever. Started running out of checkpoint 1, and I was just laughing. I was like, I was like praying for a second chance. Like, I felt I can't get across how depressed I was walking to that checkpoint. I felt so stupid that I'm only going to get to checkpoint 1. With all that I've put into this, with all my experience, I'm out. I'm going to be out at checkpoint 1. And it was a horrible feeling. I felt like a little boy out my depth, and all the negative connotations and emotions that you feel with that. And I felt so stupid. And I don't know a more negative emotion than feeling stupid. We can laugh about it, but it's the worst to be embarrassed like that. I felt shame. I felt guilt. I was in an emotional mess.
Was you accepting you was out the race then?
Not at that point, but I just knew I get to a point I can't tolerate the pain. That'll be me. Yeah. And the whole negative, like, what is that about? I'm just going to go in pain as far as I can go and fail again. The position I was in wanted the earth to swallow me. I don't think I can get across how low I was. I could not believe what was happening. So when I put that tape on and the pain lifted, I just kind of skipped out of that checkpoint. It's back on. Like
new lease of life.
Yeah, God, you just keep going now.
That's incredible good fortune that guy knew to tape there, and he's obviously seen it before. But
I would have instinctively taped. I just did not think it was my shoe.
Yeah,
I had tested them out. But this happens, and you have to swallow these defeats. And I'll fail a lot of times in the future, and I've failed in the past. But it was the scale of the spine and the pathetic attempt that it felt to me to be out in that all the resources I've thrown into this, and sorry guys, I'm out. You can
imagine Jodie, your wife, that you've gone away for recce after recce after recce and leaving her with the children.
She said, if you fail, you're not going back.
What, going to do it again?
Yeah, you're not going back. And I knew I'd probably not get another shot at it.
Yeah.
And
you're thinking at checkpoint 1.
It's what I do. It's what I live for. I love it.
Yeah.
And I'm out. I'm in this pain. And honestly, stupid. I felt stupid.
But what a great burst of energy when you've fixed it and you can go again.
I can't describe it. So I don't think I'll be happier than that in a long time.
You found your happiness.
I don't think I was as happy as that when my kids were born. I was like, this is just incredible. I could barely walk, and now I'm running. That has never ever happened to me. And that's like magic tape. Unbelievable.
So was there any other points in that race that tested you to that point of considering in your mind that I might not be able to do this? I know you talked about searching for that hut at 6 miles. It was 3 miles. You just got there with sleep deprivation, the beginning of the race with the shoe problem on your shin, and your left side feeling numb towards the end. Was there any other moments that you really started to consider, have I got this?
No. It's so dark and it's so far and all these kind of problems, but I never did think that after I got rid of that shin pain. The stomach I could manage. I had to moan about it, but I could keep going with it. I never did think I'm not going to make it, other than some of the falls I had, which are a slightly different thing. Because what happened was, we was blessed with the cold. I was very grateful for the weather. It had really super cold. It was dry. Just amazing winter spine weather is what I wanted. And it turned around from just damp and wet in the upcoming weeks. We got this real cold snap. It was amazing. So that froze the bogs. So you'd glide over what you'd be sinking in knee deep. So that's amazing. People did comment it hurt their knees and ankles and hips because it's so hard. It's like concrete. But my body didn't actually do that. It didn't actually hurt me. And you're gliding over these bogs and my records had been falling in. So you're just blessed. But then what happened? We had a little sprinkling of snow. And where you could see the ice previously, the snow covered the ice. And you couldn't tell if it was snow or ice just beneath the snow. And sometimes you stood on what you thought was snow and it was just black ice, and bam, you just down. Pretty much everyone took some falls. Yeah. And there was one fall that I had where, if you're asking me that, I did think it's over, but just my leg all twisted under me and I whacked it into the floor. And I laid there for a few seconds waiting for the pain in my leg, and it didn't happen. And I thought that's probably bad. And then I'd done nothing at all. And I had a few falls like that where you think, God, in that moment, that could have been it. I mean, that could be your life, but that's a...
Are you close to cliff tops at these points sometimes?
No, not really. And there was one place near Cauldron Snout, which is a monster of a waterfall, which is beautiful in summer, but it was too icy to go along and be too risky. And we went round that. So no, you're not really going to fall off anything. You're just going to potentially hit your head.
Yeah.
You bang your knee, hurt your back. People pulled their backs and things, and it made it more of a challenge. I don't know how, but I took some really heavy falls, and I just, like a kid, and just got up and nothing hurt.
Amazing.
It's a really, really fortuitous in them moments where I did think that could have been it. And I didn't feel stupid then, though, because I was like, that is just a bad fall. Nothing you could do about that. Well, you could argue don't go around any dodgy areas, but it was all like that. So you're going to have to stand on ice at some point.
Yeah.
But no, other than that, no, I felt like I will get this. But it's what you mentioned about where you achieve something and you build a confidence and you take it into your next challenge. That, for me, I've lost a little bit, because every challenge that I have, and with brain damage, it's quite unpredictable. I have good days, bad days, and so you have good race, bad race. And so that's a real shame for me that I have to really work with, is that confidence is definitely true in what I'd class as whatever normal people are. But in normal people, you do glean something from your achievements, and it creates a confidence. You could even say a self-worth and a self-esteem that you build upon to go on to bigger challenges. What happens to me is what I'm finding now. On every bloody start line, I'm thinking, can you do this? Because of what might happen on that journey, because I'm not sure if I'm on a good day or a bad day. And it still comes through, because I can still pull upon my experience and tell myself of what I have done. But normally, I think in the past it was a given, because you're the same person. It's like, I'm not the same person anymore. So a lot of the achievements I'm pulling on happened before. I'm lucky that I've put a lot of work in, and I have managed to achieve a lot of ultras post-stroke. So I can pull on them and go, yeah, you did that. And spine's another great thing for me. I've gleaned a lot of confidence from the spine, but it won't just be a case of you did that so you can do this.
Yeah.
I will have that thing again of it not fully coming through. It's like, yeah, you did that, but can you do this? And I never had to have that before. But
you seem to have a real way of finding a way. Obstacles come, and in that moment you seem to pull something from somewhere, whether it's a thought about something, or I don't know, you just seem to find the strength from somewhere to keep putting that one foot in front of the other. And the confidence, I guess, could come from knowing that you do find a way if there is one. And if there isn't one, there's an acceptance of, I'm not somebody that finds a way out. I find a way to do. And I always do. And if I don't find a way to do, there's a massive reason for that. Because at points of this race, you said that you weren't sure if you was having another stroke or not.
I didn't think I was having a stroke. I would call it immediately if I felt like I was. the point is I've got a lot of symptoms related, because when I get tired, my left leg will drag a bit more. My arm had gone numb, I believe, because of my
And was that happening
rucksack.
with your leg dragging as well?
It was pretty good. But it's slower than my right leg anyway. So when I get tired, it slows down. I have to slow my right leg down. So otherwise, I'm limping too badly. And I can only, if it's a possible thing, to thank my left leg. But I guess it's my brain I should thank. But yeah, I'm thankful it didn't ever get exaggerated. Sometimes I see my shadow or reflection or whatever, and I'm really limping. And not necessarily have done that far either, and I'm really limping. I can't stop limping. I think because it was slower, I don't think I was limping that badly. So yeah, it held up for me. But the thing of the left side thing and all the other stuff, like, they are stroke symptoms, but I have to decipher whether it is or not. But this is the thing. I could quite easily panic and just pull it. But if I felt like I really was, I would. I don't feel like I am, but I'm feeling like I could certainly say that I thought I was. So I don't ever want to use it as this get out clause where no one could really criticize me for, but I've got to live with myself. So I'm never going to press that button unless I really need to press that button. But yeah, it's just really, I've never been so grateful for how my body coped for something. And the spine was definitely a step up from anything I'd done in those 5 years. King Offa's Dyke came close. It was 185 miles and it's very, very arduous up and down terrain. But I got bitten on my shin and that changed my experience at King Offa's, and I really struggled with it. So I did know the spine's bigger than that in winter, in dark. How are you going to cope? So yeah, I coped better than what I perhaps expected to, and I can't really answer to why that was.
When you look at this, I've followed our sister Laurel, who does incredible things in the ultra running world, and I've ventured into that world myself. I class myself as an everyday person, giving ultra running a go as a challenge to become more really and stretch themselves. And you meet some remarkable people that you have to really think about, how are they finding a way to do these things? I remember doing a race with you and a guy ran past me. We'd been doing probably 8 hours of this race and a guy just strolls past me. And I'm thinking he must have had one of these laps out. It was one of those races, wasn't it, where you do laps and you can sit out, have a rest and go again. This guy runs past me on like lap 8, which would have been like 25, 30 miles or whatever it was. And I was thinking, in my mind, I was like, this guy must have sat out a couple of laps to be running past me as fresh as that after all these hours of moving, because he looked about 30 years older, maybe more than me. And I had to ask him. So he comes strolling past me. And I went, excuse me, mate. I said, what lap are you on? He was on the same lap as me and he was overtaking me. And I just went, how old are you? And he was in his late 70s.
Yeah.
I was 42 then. He was in his late 70s and he ran past me, just put his thumb up, went, see you later, mate. Yeah. I was like, I had to laugh inside and think, wow, that is impressive. And I think the beauty of the ultra running world, or any world that you go into that people are stretching themselves, is you just find out, well, I do, an admiration and inspiration. I look at them and go, how are you doing that? Like, because, the lady that held the record, is it Jasmine Paris?
Yeah.
For the spine that you've just done, held the record with a newborn baby, and she was breastfeeding.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking the sleep deprivation, she was probably trained for that with having a newborn child without her knowing it.
Yeah.
But she said she was entering that race tired and already sleep deprived.
Yeah, you'd imagine.
Sleep deprived. And she goes into that and she breaks the record.
Yeah.
And at the end, she's holding her little one ready to breastfeed again. I was like, and that was on the Prime documentary that I watched that, and I didn't realize that the spine was such a kind of huge thing until I see it on Prime as a documentary, and this has got to be special if Prime's done a documentary. And listening to her of the way that she articulated the race and how she challenged herself to keep moving, and then when they mentioned breastfeeding, I'm thinking, how do people do this stuff? It shows what the human body and mind can do. It also shows from your story with Vicky the power of the human connection, of how that can empower you to keep moving too. And then it does get you questioning yourself. You can't not. like you've done with Vicky and gone, Vicky's new to this,
Mm.
and she's like, she's gonna beat me really, or she thinks
Yeah.
I'm gonna quit. I
Yeah.
should be the one leading her.
Yeah, you'll not find a better metaphor for life than running.
Mm.
And then if you step into ultras, it goes a whole nother level. The way that you approach an ultra, and you say it's like a mini lifetime, and you just won't find a better metaphor than ultra running for life. And I think that's what pulls in people from a wider circle. This is about people. It's about individuals collectively together trying to achieve something. And you feel that. And the race started out on the spine like a race, and then it just felt like a whole bunch of individuals with absolutely the same goal. And you felt a bond between them, like a connection with them, because it was just kind of, at the end of it, boil it down, all the same, just trying to make it to Kirk Yetholm in the best of our ability. So we're not actually ever racing anybody but ourselves. And that's the individual story, like the reasons you're there, the motives, the desires, the drivers that push you to do it might be slightly different in each and every individual. The way that if you compare, you'll just absolutely deflate yourself. Ultra running will do that to you. You've got to always be thinking, I'm in this for me and what I can do and what I can achieve, and not compare to other people. And I think we should live life more like that as well. There's always someone faster, someone better, someone stronger, and you can belittle your achievement by comparison. And that's all around us now, especially on social media. And what you must do is set your own goals, and walk your own way, and do what it is you need to do. And then if you do that, you feel a fulfillment and a peace and a joy, and I'm certainly there with it. But if I come out of that, even for a second, and I'm joking with Vicky, but I just think she's really strong. I don't think it's me being bad, but that might just be me. But if you compare like that, it would take you a matter of seconds to think, I should have been faster, or I could have done this. And the whole joy just collapses in on itself. And you really mustn't do that. And I think the way that we can find more fulfillment as runners and as ultra runners and as people is just to look at what you've got, not what you haven't got. Acknowledge that and be aware of it. That's like with me with my brain damage. Like, there's some things that I haven't got now. And then, but to look at what you've got and know that that's enough to get where you want to go. Almost certainly. You work on it, you improve it. But we don't look enough at what we've actually got. We're drawn to what we lack and what we don't have. And I think I'd encourage anybody, and I certainly practice this individually, is to remember what I've got and what still works and what are my strengths, not my weaknesses. Like, I might not even work on them. They're not bothering me. Like, what am I good at? Lean into it, expand on it, and then set your own goals and targets. Don't compare to people. And the spine, for me, is why it's compelling, because you're seeing all these different body types and all these different ages, and your females and your males, and we're all capable and we're all trying to get to the end, and people looking on that, and you see the older guys and you see the younger females and what have you, and it's accessible to all, but each person is just an individual battling through whatever they've got, and from the positive motives that they've got, and every single person will have a story. And that's why I love the sport. I just love ultra running. That's why I can't give it up, even to potentially live longer. I'm more into these things in ultra running now than I ever was. I'm falling deeper. I'm not growing out of it. I'm growing into it, and I can't stop. And anybody who knows me sees that in me, and you just got to let me be and let me do it. I've got no other choice. But it's just such a beautiful endeavor, and the phenomenal people you meet is certainly what makes it, and the volunteers and the people that give their time up so people can achieve. It's because we feel a universal connection, I think, with people wanting to be better and with people wanting to improve their lives, and that positive nature in a predominantly negatively streamed media and all the problems we've got in society and the world. To be around people that are positive like that like a can-do attitude that I believe I've got a chance of getting that when most people wouldn't even start, is you surround yourself by them people and build that network, and you become quite a force. And ultra running, I'm just so privileged and fortunate to work in that kind of environment where I'm surrounded by people who believe, and the naysayers fall by the wayside.
Well, it's that spirit, isn't it? Any races that I've done are part of your events, like the Robin Hood 100, albeit I got to mile 74 and it was over. I'm going again this year. And what I loved about it was just the camaraderie of the other runners. I never felt like I was racing someone other than myself. And I guess for the elites that are going for the titles and times and want to win, slightly different mentality. For the bigger part of the community, it's about the race with themselves. How do they overcome to get further, faster? It's about them. But what I found what was beautiful is people just encouraging you, asking if you're all right. And then the volunteers on the stations, how are you going? And they're tired too, because they're giving up their time out of their lives to just give you a round of applause. And it's incredible how much that little bit of well done, keep going, although that's what they're going to say to everyone that comes through, it raises your spirit and it keeps you going for another few hours. And I think that connection, that community, not just in running but in life, is important. Whether it's business people, they want people that want them to succeed, not, well, you make more money than me, I'm going to try and stifle you. And I think there's a lot to be said metaphorically for that community, that spirit in the running world. If you could find that network in the business world, in your friendships, in your family world, that people want to lift you up rather than pull you down, I think you're going to live in a magical place and you're going to achieve more than you ever would have done being around those people. In life, people always want to see you not do well. But if you can remove yourself from them environments and be in the ones that we're talking about, because watching the documentary, it was overly said often that it feels like just a group of people, a family, and everyone wants you to do well. That's a real compelling feeling. Hence why you felt that connection to Vicky. There's no challenge her trying to beat you. It's like, come on, let's get over the line. And I think those bonds that you build when you think like that are so powerful, it can serve you well. My thoughts for me and anybody else in life is that find a way to get in them groups, whatever you're interested in. If you can get around people that are interested in the same thing and get excited by the things you get excited about and don't look at you like you're strange, get around them, because it does so much for your energy. I leave these conversations in these podcasts always with more energy than I entered with, because I'm inspired by the person and I'm thinking, what more could I do to elevate my life, my family's life, from what I'm learning from you? And I do this to learn. I get a chance to sit with someone like you for a couple of hours and learn about, how do you do that? And then I'm thinking, how do I apply that into my life? And that's the greatest way to learn, is to listen to people who have done great things, I think, and then take it with you and put it into your life. But lots of people with ego don't want to listen to anybody else about what they've done, because really they're resenting what they've done. And I think that's a big problem in society. And you said it greatly there. Great quote, comparison is a thief of joy. And people fall into that trap. And the ultra running world, from what I've seen, doesn't seem to have that, because everyone's fighting their own demons, their own battles to get over the finishing line. Final question from me as we wrap up, and it's been another wonderful conversation. I think this is our third podcast together over a period of time, from when you first came out the stroke, and then you've gone on to do different things. And today I wanted the real focus to be around the spine, which it has been. Also, it's important that people understand why, what drives you, what motivates you, what inspires you, because people may listen to this that are contemplating doing a 10K for the first time, doing a 5K, doing a half marathon, joining a gym which they get anxious about, stepping outside of the house which they're scared of because social anxiety. Lots of people with lots of things will be listening to this. I don't think this is a podcast for runners. I think this is a conversation for people that got to find a way to get something more than what they've already got. Find a way, just find a way, and listen to the self-doubt, embrace the self-doubt, accept it. Just don't let it stop you from doing the things that you love and going after everything that you want. So my final question to you is, what question would you have asked yourself if you were sat here that I've not asked you today that you would like to answer?
Maybe, would I do it again?
What's the answer to that?
No desire to at the moment, because having done what I did, I felt like it was, in the end, a pretty fair result. And for what I'd overcome to get there and be able to do that, I'm very thankful and blessed and grateful. So it didn't really leave me feeling like I want to go back. And if I'd have failed, I would have surely have had that. So I currently have got no desire or real motive as to why I would. The only reason I would go back, it would be for time. It would be to try and be faster and be more competitive like that. But that's going to, I think, take a few years for that to bother me enough to go back. There's so many other things that I want to do. But I do find that interesting where other guys and girls are returning year after year, even though they're finishing. And I'm interested by their motives because it's so hard every single time, and they'll say that. And sometimes they're not looking to improve their time either. Just the challenge is different each and every time, and they want to find a way through. And although in a way I totally understand that, because I'll go on to challenge myself in other areas, I am intrigued by why I keep going to that race, because I can go and find that in other areas. So yeah, for me, having done it once, I am quite confused why you'd go back if you've done it. And if you did it in a time where you thought was well under your ability, I'd understand that too. But if you do it and you do it pretty well, you think it's a fair result, like I'd say in my case, then I'm a little bit, I don't know if I'd put myself through that again, you know.
So lastly then, what is a race that you haven't done that's in your mind that seems like when you first thought about the spine, it really excites you, the anticipation of the unknown? Can I, can't I, will I be able to? Is there anything on the horizon that's there?
There's so many, and you know, I'm not going to be able to go through them, but there are so many events. And
well, if you could, let me narrow it down. If you could choose one last race, what would it be?
I'm maybe leaning towards the Spartathlon, Athens to Sparta, about, I think it's 153 miles, and just for the story and the history behind that race, and just always from when I first started ultra running, the Spartathlon was something knocking about in my radar, and I never really fancied it. You got to move quite well to make the cut-offs as well, and it's so hot, and it's hard running. And I perhaps never felt quite up to it in many ways. And I'd like to go and get that one. And so I am at that point as well, where I do feel that urgency to start pulling these out, and then starting to get the plans. And I'm trying to do a bigger event per year. The spine was this year, and then do that each year. And it's going to take me many years, but I think for me, the thing is, as long as I've got adventure on the horizon and it's coming towards me, then I can be patient with specifically what it is, as long as it's coming. So as long as I'm engaged, as long as I'm going to the next thing, I'll bide my time best I can. But I've definitely got more urgency now for the pipe dreams, for the big races. I am working to pull them into place now. So there's many, but
Spartathlon,
yeah.
Have you got? When are you thinking of that?
It's going to be a few years, just because next year actually I want to do the Dragon's Back, which is in September across Wales.
How far is that?
It's about 230, but it's a multi-day. And then the September after that, I'd have Robin Hood 100 again, and organising that, because that's every other year. And I'd have to look whether I could do Spartathlon with it. They don't clash, but it might just make me too busy that it's just not enjoyable. So I might have to look at that. But then it could be then the next. It could be 3 years. And this is what I'm saying. These things they're plotting out now, and I've got kind of a 5-year cycle that I'm working to. But as long as something big is coming towards me, I can wait.
Yeah.
But you got to be careful that you have it is coming. Otherwise, you are just waiting. So it's just how things fall, and my commitments, and of where that and when that race is, and budget and all the rest. That some of these that I really want to do, you think we'll do it now, but it's not as simple as that. And I will have to tighten. I've also got to get on it. These are oversubscribed. The ballots, there's a chance, there's luck. I'm not fast enough to auto qualify. So just because I want to get on something could take me 10 years to get on it as well. So
Yeah.
we'll see where I am with it all.
How do runners, if runners are looking at working with you as being their running coach, or people want to enter any of your events, where do they find you?
That's a good question. I'd say maybe Instagram for me is perhaps the easiest. RonnieStaton.coach. It's got a website of that name as well.
Not .coach though, it's right underscore in it.
No,
RonnieStaton.coach.
RonnieStaton.coach.
What about your website?
That's what that is as well. And then Hobo Pace, yeah. It's on SI entries, all the listings of the race as well.
What races do you host then?
I host the Dukeries 30 and 40 mile in Sherwood Forest, and then the Robin Hood 100 in Sherwood Forest every other year in September. And the Dukeries 10 mile, because that's a good one to have. Some people has done that trail run and then eventually moved on to the 100 mile, which is great to see. So I liked that. That's more inclusive for people. And you do get people moving across from road to trail. You also get people, of course, 10 miles is a huge challenge to them and they're nervous of doing that distance. So it's great to keep my hand in that. Otherwise you lose your way a little bit with numbers and ultras and you forget that 10 miles is hard, and I don't want to sound a knob like that. You got to keep your finger in that.
Yeah.
Everyone's different. Everyone's on a different level of their running, and 10 miles is a challenge. So it keeps me real.
So Hobo Pace is a place people can see your races and subscribe to them doing. I've done the 40 and done the 100. Failed at the 100, doing it again this year, and it is a beautiful run, isn't it?
It is a nice run.
It is, and like you've said before, it's not the most challenging because of the terrain, the hills, and everything like that. So a great entry.
It's great. We get a lot of first time
100-mile
runners. I'm proud of that on the Robin Hood. It gives an opportunity of some of these races in such severe terrain. They're not going to help you with the distance as well. It's a well supported ultra on good terrain where you can move. And I think you got a great chance as your first 100.
So from me to you, mate, thank you so much for joining me again on a From Nowhere to Somewhere podcast. It's been a wonderfully inspiring, as always, conversation. I always leave with my aspirations raised and hungry to stretch myself to do more. So I'm very grateful that you are my brother and I get as much access to you as I do and follow your expeditions and your epic adventures, and long may they continue. And you may not feel this or think this, but I think so many people do. Well, I don't think I know. Follow you full of admiration for how you've overcome nearly dying to then going on to what you've achieved. And I know you say you don't like to talk about the stroke. However, it is inspiring to people that may have gone through stuff, that you can overcome things in your life and you can keep doing the things that you love no matter what. And you found a way to do that, and that really is admirable. So well done to you for being able to accomplish all the things that you do with all the things that you've been through, and keep moving forward one step in front of the other. So thanks so much once again.
Thank you. My pleasure.